Cheshire, England, late 19th century. The land lies gently, hedged and orderly, fields folding into one another beneath a wide, pale sky. There is nothing dramatic here, nothing that announces destiny. Newton Hall stands solid and unassuming, its brickwork darkened by rain and time, its windows looking out across parish land that rarely surprises anyone. George Herbert Lee Mallory is born into this quiet geography on the 18th of June 1886. He enters a world of sermons, seasons and routine, the measured life of a rector's family, where days are shaped by bells, prayer and propriety. His father, Herbert, is a man of discipline and gravity, a rector whose voice carries authority even in the low hum of home life. He moves through the house with purpose, expecting the children to understand order without argument. Mornings are punctual, meals are precise, behaviour is guided by calm insistence. The world, Herbert teaches, is something to be cared for, not defied. His mother, Annie, offers a softer rhythm. She notices the subtleties, a frown, a pause, a restless glance, and cushions them with warmth. She tends the house, the children, the small emergencies of domestic life with quiet attention. She is steady, patient, unassuming, but her kindness allows freedom to breathe into the corners of their orderly world. George responds to her presence differently than to his father's, a mixture of relief and curiosity. Where Herbert imposes, Annie allows. Where Herbert directs, Annie observes. The tension shapes him, moulds the instincts that will later define his climbing. But George is restless. From the beginning, he moves as though the ground beneath him is provisional, as though it exists only to be crossed, tested, escaped. He climbs before he understands why. Chairs, fences, walls that divide fields, drain pipes that should never be touched. His sister will later remember it simply. He climbs everything it is possible to climb. At 7 years old, he scales the roof of his father's church, St. Wilfrid's, Mobberley. The stone is cold beneath his hands, the angle awkward, the drop below uninviting. There is no audience, no applause, just the scrape of shoes against masonry, and the quiet certainty that upward is the only direction worth taking. Below him is safety, instruction, expectation. Above him is space. From the roofline, the village looks smaller than it should, contained, manageable. The wind moves freely here, tugging at his clothes, carrying sound away. It is not fear that settles in his chest, but clarity. Height simplifies things. It strips the world of noise, this sensation. The calm that arrives only when the ground falls away will never leave him. As the family moves houses and years pass, the pattern repeats. George is a boy who does not stay put. Schoolyards become vertical challenges. Boundaries are not respected. They are tested. Risk is not sought for its own sake, but accepted without argument. Falling is possible. So is standing. His father watches with a mixture of concern and puzzlement, reminding him of the way the world expects caution, yet unable to tether the boy's instincts. His mother, quietly observing, allows, encouraging only in subtle ways, a nod, a brief smile, a recognition that her son moves with an inner logic the grown world cannot yet grasp. At boarding school, and later at Winchester College, his body learns discipline even as his instincts resist it. He excels physically, gymnastics, balance, control. He learns how to trust his grip, how to commit his weight without hesitation. His strength is not brute force, it is precision, economy. He moves cleanly. Then come the Alps. A teacher sees what others have missed. R. L. G. Irving, a mountaineer himself, recognises something essential in the boy. Not recklessness, but aptitude. George is invited along, almost casually, to climb at altitude. It is his first true encounter with mountains that do not forgive mistakes. The air is thinner here, the rock sharper. The consequence is immediate. George does not shrink from it. He adapts. He moves as though the terrain makes sense to him, as though height is not an obstacle, but a language he already speaks. He learns quickly how to read snow, how to judge weather, how to accept fatigue without complaint. He understands that mountains are not conquered. They are endured. When he returns to England, the lowlands feel flatter than before, narrower. The church roof no longer satisfies. The pull upward has found a name now. It is no longer mischief or impulse. It is direction. George Mallory is still young. He has not yet seen war. He has not yet seen Everest. He does not yet know how brief his life will be. But already the pattern is set, stone beneath his hands, wind against his face, and the quiet certainty that meaning lies higher than where he stands. Cambridge, autumn 1905. The streets are narrow, lined with ancient brick and stone, and the air smells of smoke, wet leaves, and chalk-dusted libraries. Magdalen College rises like a city within a city, cloisters shadowed, courtyards still from the passing hours, towers stretching above like silent witnesses. George Mallory arrives here carrying a quiet, steady confidence, but also the restlessness that has defined him since childhood. He studies history, the weight of centuries pressing in from leather-bound volumes, manuscripts yellowed with age, ink faint and deliberate. But his mind cannot linger only on the past. It wanders up stone faces, across the Alps, along ridge lines that only exist in memory or imagination. The mountains whisper to him, a distant, persistent call he cannot ignore. They are not distractions, they are purpose. He discovers friends who match his intensity, yet challenge it in ways the mountains never could. Rupert Brooke, Lytton Strachey, Geoffrey Keynes and the others, intellectuals, poets, thinkers. Each conversation a climb of its own. Words become handholds, ideas become footholds. He moves through them with curiosity and charm, absorbing, responding, teasing out hidden truths, forging bonds that are as precise and deliberate as the grip of a climber's hand on rock. Climbing does not stop. Summers in Wales, the Lake District, and the Alps demand him. Every ridge, every glacier, every crag teaches endurance, judgment, humility. The thin air burns lungs, sharpens awareness. Feet slip on rock, snow bruises the shins, fingers numb against icy surfaces. He learns that fear is a tool, focus a necessity, and risk is a language spoken only by those willing to listen. He measures himself against each peak and each mistake, noting what can be learned, what cannot. Winter returns him to England, to college halls, to debates and essays, to rowing practice where every stroke is rhythm, precision, balance. He learns to harness energy, to commit to emotion fully, and to carry exhaustion without complaint. These months of alternation, intellectual challenge and alpine rigour, forge something quiet but unshakable, a confidence built not on arrogance but on preparation, observation and instinct honed to a sharp edge. His tutors note his gifts, yet the world feels sometimes ill-equipped to contain him. At Magdalen, he experiments with influence and charm, navigating complex social codes, testing authority with wit rather than defiance. He writes essays with care and subtle audacity, engages in debate that teases logic and morality alike. He learns that ideas, like mountains, have contours, rise and fall, danger and beauty, reward and risk. And yet climbing remains the constant. It is no longer just joy or childhood audacity, it is identity. Every expedition, every route, every frozen face of rock or ice is a mirror, reflecting discipline and a refusal to submit to gravity's insistence. Each return to the lowlands sharpens the contrast. The quiet streets of Cambridge, the rustle of leaves, the smell of wet stone in cloisters feel flat, confined. They are a reminder that life without challenge is incomplete, that the body and mind must always strain, reach, ascend. By 1909, the pull of mountains has fused with his intellect. He walks the halls of Cambridge with a taller stance, a gaze that measures rather than merely sees. Conversations about Boswell, Johnson, history, literature, all are a kind of terrain to traverse. He notes the subtleties, the hidden holds, the precarious edges of logic and meaning. And yet, beneath all of this, the call of the Alps, the sheer, uncompromising faces of rock waits. Every peak whispers, further, higher, push. George Mallory has found his rhythm, balance between mind and muscle, intellect and instinct. He understands, without words, that nothing is more compelling than the struggle to rise. Stone beneath hands, cold in lungs, and the endless pull upward that will define the rest of his life. Europe 1914. The air tastes of smoke and rain, of fear and urgency. Streets once quiet now rumble with marching boots. George Mallory steps into the maelstrom of the First World War, leaving behind the calm stone halls of Cambridge and the measured rhythm of alpine climbs. England demands service, duty, sacrifice. George gives it, as he always has. Not reluctantly, but with the same deliberate commitment he shows on a mountain face. The war reshapes him. Trenches are mud-choked, cold and brutal. Rain soaks boots and uniform alike, freezes skin, seeps into bone. Shells thunder, tearing holes in earth and sky. Men shout, groan, disappear. George moves through it all with the same balance he has learned on rock. Step carefully, read the terrain, trust instincts. Yet nothing can prepare him for the randomness of danger. The way, the ground beneath, can vanish without warning. He learns fear. Not abstract, but immediate, tangible. And he learns to act through it. When the guns finally fall silent in 1918, George returns to England. He is changed. The body is scarred, the mind sharpened, the perspective on life narrowed. Every wasted day seems intolerable, every calm moment fleeting. And yet, the mountains call. They have never stopped calling. They are waiting. In 1921, he joins the first British reconnaissance expedition to Everest. The Himalayas rise like cathedral spires above clouds and glaciers, colossal and indifferent. The air is thin, biting. Snow stings the face. Frost seeps into every layer. Every step demands focus. Every slope tests balance. Here, there is no instruction beyond what the mountain itself offers. One misstep, one lapse in judgment, and gravity answers immediately. George thrives in this calculus. The expedition moves cautiously along the North Col North Ridge. Camps are set in snow hollows, tents strained against wind, ropes creak under icy load. Mallory's eyes are constantly calculating, scanning, judging. He notices the subtlest changes in snow texture, the faintest cracks in ice, the direction of clouds scudding overhead. Each movement is deliberate, each risk measured, yet beneath calculation lies something else. A pull, a need to see how far he can push, how close he can approach the edge. The mountains teach him endurance. Cold bites, oxygen thins, muscles ache in ways he has never felt in English gyms or alpine climbs. Sleep comes in short, shivering bursts, appetite is irregular, frostbite a persistent threat. And still, he climbs. Every ridge conquered, every path scouted, every camp established is a small triumph against a vast, indifferent world. By 1922, he returns for the second Everest expedition. The team pushes higher than any human has before, using supplemental oxygen in an era when it is still experimental and heavy. George moves with a quiet intensity, methodical yet relentless. The heights strip away comfort and illusion. Every breath is precious, every movement deliberate. His body has become a machine of precision, his mind a radar for danger and opportunity. He thrives in this extreme calculus, and yet the risk is intoxicating. The line between mastery and mortality narrows with every step. Mallory's obsession deepens. Everest is not a challenge to be merely met. It is a proving ground, a place to measure every skill, every instinct, every ounce of courage. Each climb is a conversation with the mountain. Listen, adapt, respect, persist. He feels alive in ways the trenches never allowed, alive in a presence that is terrifyingly intimate with death. And through it all, a quiet burning thought persists. He will not be denied. He will rise, stone beneath hands, ice against cheek, and the relentless call of a peak that refuses to yield. 1924. The Himalayas tower above everything, jagged and immense, their white ridges cutting sharply into the pale blue sky. Each peak seems impossible, distant, yet insistently present, as if the mountain itself calls Mallory forward. At base camp the air is thin and biting, carrying the smell of melting snow, campfires, and the faint metallic tang of ice axes striking rock. Every breath is precious. Every inhale is a reminder that the body is being stretched beyond ordinary limits. George Mallory moves deliberately, his movements honed by years in the Alps and the Lake District. Every rope tightened, every tent pegged into frozen ground, every layer of clothing adjusted is part of a careful rhythm that keeps him alive. Beside him, Andrew Sandia Irvine moves with quiet precision, trusting Mallory's judgment completely. The two share an unspoken understanding. The mountain demands everything, but it offers nothing. Mallory carries a small folded photograph of his wife Ruth. Long before this climb, he promised that if he reached the summit, he would leave her image there, pressed against the wind at the very top of the world. The photograph rests close to his heart, folded carefully in a pocket beneath layers of wool and canvas. He touches it occasionally with gloved fingers, a grounding reminder of home and life beyond this relentless ascent. The thought steadies him, even as frost stings his face and oxygen thins with every step. The climb begins along the northeast ridge, each step a negotiation with gravity. Ice creaks under crampons, snow shudders with the weight of the team, and the wind roars, carrying with it sharp particles that sting skin and steal breath. Every ridge narrows, every slope tilts, every crevasse yawns like a warning. Mallory calculates each movement, placing hands and feet with absolute precision. Yet he moves with confidence, the sort that comes from years of learning to read mountains, though they were text. As they ascend, the physical exertion becomes relentless. Fingers are numb despite thick gloves. Toes ache against boots stiff with frost. Breathing is shallow, laborious. Each inhalation a thin, precious thread of oxygen. The world below, the valleys, the clouds, seem impossibly distant. Up here, the mountain isolates, stripping away comfort, familiarity, and even time. Every moment is measured by the next careful movement, the next foothold, the next judgment of snow and ice. The summit looms sharp and inviting, yet terrifyingly distant. Clouds swirl and thicken, shadows stretch across the icy ridges. Mallory and Irvine push on side by side, silent except for the scrape of crampon against ice and the occasional hiss of wind. The mountain offers no encouragement, only resistance, and each step closer to the top heightens the tension. One slip, one misjudgment, and there is nothing to catch them. Near the final rise, they are last seen alive, moving steadily, but with the weight of extreme altitude pressing down on every limb. The photograph of Ruth remains with Mallory, yet it will never be found among the personal effects recovered decades later. Its absence adds a haunting note to the mystery. a promise left unfulfilled, a love carried to the edge of the world but never placed atop it. Below, the camp waits tensely, watching, wondering, but the two climbers vanish from sight. Snow erases footprints. Wind swirls through the ridges, ice and stone swallow the path. The mountain keeps its secrets, indifferent to human hope or fear. Mallory and Irvine's last moments remain suspended in the thin, bitter air, a silent testament to ambition, devotion, and the relentless pursuit of the heights no one else has yet touched. Stone beneath hands, wind against face, breath stolen by altitude, and the quiet, inexorable pull of the world's highest peaks, daring those who climb to risk everything. 1999. The northeast ridge of Everest is empty, silent, as if it has waited a century for human eyes. Snow lies thick and unbroken, pale beneath the sun, sculpted into sharp ridges and waves by relentless wind. A small team of climbers moves carefully across the slope, boots crunching into ice, breaths shallow, eyes scanning. Every rock, every dip could hide history. Then a dark shape appears, lodged against a slope, partially buried in snow. It is George Mallory. He lies at 26,760 feet, frozen in the mountain's embrace. Layers of clothing, wool, canvas, leather, are stiff, tattered, yet still protective. They reveal meticulous preparation. Gloves that once gripped axes, boots that climbed ice, rope harnesses still looped. Inside, a small detail stands out. Mallory stitched into a shirt, a silent assertion of identity, a human mark against the vast, indifferent landscape. The body is pale, almost bleached white, features softened by decades of wind and frost. Fingers curl instinctively, legs bent unnaturally, as though paused mid-movement in a climb that will never continue. Bruises and abrasions mark the body. The subtle scars of collision with stone and ice, reminders of a struggle that went unseen, unrecorded. No photograph of Ruth is found, no trace of the promise he carried to the summit. It is a poignant absence, a love folded into layers of cloth, carried to the edge of the world, yet never set in place. The climbers move slowly, examining each layer, each piece of fabric, the frozen impression of muscle and bone. They note the placement of ice axes, the rigidity of harnesses, the careful positioning that speaks to his discipline and experience. This is not chaos. It is the frozen logic of survival and ambition pressed to the extreme. Even decades later, the mountain holds every detail, each one a clue, none giving the full answer. The climbers know his injuries, frozen contusions, a twisted position in the final moments, evidence of the harsh, unyielding landscape. Every mark tells a story of endurance, of human determination, confronted by forces beyond comprehension. The body is not just remains, it is testament, documentation of ambition and skill, risk and consequence, and still the photograph of Ruth is missing. The mountain has claimed it, or perhaps it was never placed, lost to circumstance. Its absence is a quiet echo of the mystery that surrounds Mallory's final climb. The summit, whether reached or not, remains unproven. Yet the story endures, the promise, the courage, the human will to ascend, all recorded in snow and stone, frozen forever at the edge of possibility. In the end, George Mallory rests here at the world's extreme. Not conquered, not fully understood, but remembered. The peak remains aloof, indifferent, yet human ambition has left its mark. In the courage to climb, the meticulous preparation, the audacity to move where few have ventured. His life, frozen in time, speaks not only of risk and loss, but of the relentless human desire to reach beyond what is known, to touch the impossible and to leave something, even an unseen photograph, as a proof that he was here.